In early 2025, a flight bound for Daegu never left the runway. A passenger's power bank, approved by airline standards, suddenly overheated. The cabin filled with smoke, panic spread faster than the fire itself. Everyone evacuated. No one expected a small device meant to charge a phone to nearly ground an aircraft. Since then, airports have stopped treating batteries as accessories. They've become liabilities. And travelers are finding out the hard way. Security lines are longer, questions are sharper, and the rules, they're shifting fast. A charger that made it through last year might get you pulled aside today. A bag that seemed fine at check-in could be flagged at the gate. It's no longer about the weight of your carry-on, it's about what's powering it. In 2025, airlines aren't just checking your boarding pass, they're checking your tech. What's inside your bag could get you delayed, fined, or grounded entirely. And for most travelers, the warning comes too late. Thousands of travelers are running into problems they never saw coming. If staying ahead of these changes matters to you, consider sharing this with someone who flies often. And if you want clear, practical updates that actually help, not just headlines, subscribe. This is just the beginning. The flight never even took off. It was January 2025 when an Air Busan aircraft sitting on the tarmac was evacuated after a passenger's power bank burst into flames. It wasn't oversized, it wasn't hidden, it was well within the legal size most airlines still allow. But it's still overheated and nearly triggered a disaster. Since then, the conversation around batteries has shifted from convenience to consequence. Here's where most travelers get caught off guard. Battery capacity isn't about what's charged, it's about what it was built to hold. You can drain it to zero, pack it empty, and it still counts. Over 160 watt hours, that's a hard ban. Doesn't matter if it's in your carry-on or checked luggage, it's not allowed on the plane. Between 100 and 160 watt hours, you'll need airline approval, and you're limited to just 2, no exceptions. Under 100 watt hours is the safe zone, but even then, it must be in your carry-on, never in checked baggage. The reason is simple. Fires that start in the cargo hold can't be stopped quickly. If a battery ignites mid-flight, response time matters, and no one's reaching your checked suitcase at 30,000 feet. That's why power banks go through such scrutiny. And yet, many travelers never check the label. They see milliamp hours, but don't do the math. The actual airline regulations are based on watt hours. It's printed right on most batteries, or it should be. If it's not, that's a red flag in itself. So before you pack, flip your charger over. Find the number, because what you don't know could keep you from boarding. Smart Luggage promised to make travel easier. Built-in chargers, tracking devices, even digital locks. But in 2025, many of those features have become liabilities. Airlines across the board are cracking down, especially on suitcases with non-removable batteries. It doesn't matter how sleek it looks. If the power source can't be physically taken out, the entire bag might be denied at check-in. The concern isn't hypothetical. If that internal battery fails, there's no way for staff to isolate it in flight or after loading. And in some cases, even removable batteries aren't enough. Airlines have started asking for proof. Manufacturer certification, safety compliance stickers, specific approval to meet standards like UL 2054, which governs lithium-ion battery construction. Most travelers have never heard of it. Fewer can find it on their luggage. One traveler described it best. The bag made it through check-in, past security, and all the way to the gate. Then an agent asked to see the manual. Without it, they were pulled from the boarding line and told to check the bag or leave it behind. There's a way around this, but it requires planning. Choose luggage with a clearly detachable battery and visible labeling. Don't assume sleek equals safe. Look for printed watt-hour specs, compliance icons, and certification tags. Because in 2025, a smart bag without smart documentation isn't clever, it's grounded.
In theory, the 100 milliliter liquid rule was supposed to be on its way out. In early 2024, a handful of UK airports announced they were scrapping it. Travelers cheered. Headlines claimed you could now breathe through security with full-size bottles and no plastic bag rituals. But by mid-year, most of those same airports quietly brought the rule back. Security concerns were the reason, and the result has been confusion at best, penalties at worst. One traveler passed through a UK airport with a liter of designer skincare, only to have it confiscated during a connecting flight 2 hours later. Others have been forced to chug bottles of water or throw out sealed toiletries worth hundreds of dollars, all because a second airport wasn't using the same scanner system. That's the other part of the problem. Across the EU, the rollout of new CT scanners designed to eliminate the need for liquid limits hasn't happened as promised. Many terminals still haven't upgraded. And the ones that have, some only use the technology for domestic routes. International passengers often find themselves sent back to older checkpoints where the 100 milliliter rule is still fully enforced. Even worse, if you clear security in one airport and transfer through another without the same tech, your bag might be flagged again. You could lose everything you just got approved for at your departure gate. The reality in 2025 is this. Despite the tech, despite the headlines, the safest choice is still the most familiar. Stick to 100 milliliters. Use a clear plastic bag. It's the only rule that still works in every terminal, on every route, without exception. If you're flying with a budget airline in 2025, what used to be free is now shrinking. Literally. Ryanair, EasyJet, Wizz Air, and others have all reduced the size limits for personal bags, often without much warning. A backpack that slid easily into the sizer frame last year might now be flagged before you even reach the gate. Travelers are discovering this the hard way. Same bag, same route, but suddenly it doesn't fit. And budget carriers aren't flexible. If your bag doesn't slide perfectly into the metal frame, even if it's off by half an inch, you'll be charged on the spot. No discussion, no apology. What felt like a quick weekend flight can turn into a $50 gate fee with one zip too far. Some passengers have started bringing measuring tape with them to the airport. Not as a joke, but as a form of insurance. The rules aren't just tighter, they're being enforced aggressively. And enforcement varies depending on the staff, the location, and even the time of day. The strategy is simple, but it's not optional. Always check your airline's current size limits for every flight. Don't rely on what worked last summer. If you're unsure, prepay for overhead space. It's usually cheaper than paying at the gate. And if you fly these routes often, consider buying a bag that's designed to meet the strictest carrier dimensions, because the next time you roll up to the gate with your favorite backpack, it might cost you more than the flight itself. Air Canada made headlines at the start of 2025, but not for reasons passengers celebrated. On basic economy fares, the airline removed what used to be a given, the right to bring a carry-on for free. Now it's personal item only. A small backpack, a laptop bag, maybe a purse. Anything with wheels? That'll be $35. And if you're traveling with more than one, add $65 per piece. It didn't stop there. Starting January 21st, passengers in basic economy also lost the ability to choose their seats during online check-in. Assignments are now random. Aisle, window, or most commonly, the middle. The only way to change it is to pay more. That's where the frustration is building. Couples who book together have found themselves split apart, assigned seats in different rows even on short-haul flights. Some were told they could pay to be reseated even though they'd already booked under the same reservation. Others discovered they paid for seat selection only to be bumped into less desirable spots anyway. And it's not just Air Canada. United and Delta are moving in the same direction, slowly turning carry-ons and seat selection into paid perks rather than standard features. For travelers used to booking the lowest fare and assuming the basics were covered, it's become a rude awakening. The workaround. It's small, but it helps. Check in the minute the window opens. Some passengers report better odds of getting aisle or window seats that way, even without paying. It's not guaranteed, but in a system that's now built around upsells, timing is one of the few advantages still in your control. Most travelers know the basics. No knives, no explosives, no gallons of shampoo, but there's a second list few people see until it's too late, and it's filled with items that seem harmless until they aren't. Toy guns are one. Doesn't matter if they're bright pink or foam. If they resemble a weapon, even remotely, they'll be flagged. Cosplay props have caused full security alerts. Realistic looking or not, if it fits the profile, it doesn't fly. Then there are powders. Flour, turmeric, protein mix, ground coffee. Anything over 12 ounces, about 350 grams, can trigger additional screening or get confiscated outright. Why? Because powders can be used to disguise more dangerous materials. Security doesn't know what you packed, and they're not going to guess. Vintage electronics are another unexpected issue. Older camcorders, retro cameras, outdated laptops, anything with a battery that can't be clearly identified or removed is now suspect. If screeners can't tell whether the battery type complies with lithium regulations, you may be asked to leave it behind. And then there's one of the strangest bans of all, mercury thermometers. Still sold in some countries, still used by a few travelers, and completely forbidden. The reason? Mercury corrodes aluminum. Aircraft are built from aluminum. If a mercury thermometer leaks mid-flight, it can eat through the protective layer and weaken structural components from the inside out. One leak, one cabin, and the chemistry becomes an engineering problem. fast. These aren't theoretical issues, they're happening at checkpoints every day. So before packing that harmless-looking item, check the TSA's prohibited list. It's long, it's strange, and if you ignore it, you might spend your flight money replacing things you never should have packed in the first place.
A typical business traveler today isn't just carrying clothes, they're hauling a portable office. Phone, laptop, tablet, camera, chargers, power banks, maybe even a drone. And while these items are allowed, they're also magnets for delays, extra screening, and opportunistic theft. Getting through security with gear like that requires a plan, not luck. The smartest travelers don't scatter their electronics throughout their bag. Everything goes in one compartment. Easy to access, easy to unload. No digging, no delays. At the bin, flat is key. Stack your devices and you'll get pulled aside. Lay everything out in a single layer, no overlap. Tablets next to laptops, cords coiled cleanly. It takes an extra 30 seconds to set up, but it can save 10 minutes of unpacking under pressure. And don't take your eyes off that tray. Theft at checkpoints is real, and it's fast. Travelers have had laptops vanish in seconds while reaching for their shoes. Stand next to your gear. One hand on the tray if you have to. No one else is responsible for watching it. The last mistake most people make? Rushing. Moving fast doesn't mean moving smart. Speed is how chargers get left behind, bins go unclaimed, and alarms get triggered by a forgotten battery pack stuffed in a scarf pocket. Airports reward methodical, not frantic. Show up organized, move deliberately, and treat every checkpoint like a system, not a sprint. Because in 2025, the person who controls their pace usually makes their flight. The one who doesn't ends up buying replacement gear in the terminal or watching their boarding group disappear from behind the glass. By now, one thing should be clear. In 2025, travel isn't just about getting through the airport. It's about knowing exactly what you're carrying and why it matters. Start with your batteries. Don't guess. Find the watt-hour rating. Over 160? Leave it behind. Between 100 and 160? Only two allowed and only with airline approval. Under 100? Pack it, but only in your carry-on. Smart luggage? Look for printed labels and visible safety markings. If the battery isn't removable, assume the airline won't take it. And if the certification isn't obvious, be ready to explain or replace your bag at the terminal. As for liquids, forget the headlines. Stick to the classic 100 milliliter rule. Clear plastic bag. Travel sizes only. Doesn't matter if the scanner looks fancy. Not every terminal is using it. Don't assume. Baggage policies change faster than app updates. That backpack you used last summer might cost you $50 this time. Check size limits for every flight, especially on budget carriers. And if you're not sure, prepay for overhead space. It's cheaper than being surprised at the gate. At security, preparation beats speed. Group your electronics, lay them out flat, watch your tray like it's your passport. Most people lose time here, not because of the rules, but because they weren't ready for them. So here's the punchline. Your carry-on isn't just luggage, it's your ticket past security. Packed right, it keeps you moving. Packed wrong, it can stop your entire trip cold. The rules aren't getting easier, but the smartest flyers aren't trying to outsmart them. They're planning around them. If this helped you rethink your next flight, like, share, and subscribe. Staying 3 steps ahead of airport chaos starts with knowing what most people don't. Coming up next, 7 airport freebies you didn't know you could ask for, from perks at check-in to hidden services that make your layover actually comfortable.